As we've become a more urbanised nation, our engagement with and our appreciation of the bush, I believe, has diminished. Over 86% of us now live in big capital cities. Most of Australia's job and economic opportunities have gravitated to the suburbs and inner cities, in contrast to decades past. This has not only depleted the bush of its young people, but set many small towns on a slow path to decline. It has also led to losing sight of what the bush represents and the central role it plays in Australia's future. It has, I think, led to many Australians in urban areas losing sight of where much of the nation's prosperity comes from, where the food and energy comes from, and we need to change this. Fortunately, we're now seeing a reset in favour of the regions. People are continuing to flock to the bush, drawn to its amenity, its livability, its comparatively affordable housing, and in Western Australia by good jobs with big salaries and bright futures. Go west, young man used to be the catch cry of 1800s America as settlers struck out in search of their future. But today, I would say we can continue to say go west, but also go north. Our northwest, and indeed all of our north, holds enormous opportunity. Catch a flight to Perth from Brisbane or Adelaide most days and you'll likely be seated alongside workers in high vis on their way through a swing on a resources site in northern Western Australia. A new generation of Australians bound for regional WA to seek their fortune and to build themselves and their families a better life. In my view, and as was reported earlier today, every East Coast-based parliamentarian, even journalists, should experience Perth Airport on any given Monday or Tuesday at around 5 a.m. Here you will witness that extraordinary airlift of workers to the north that occurs week in, week out to ensure our nation's continued prosperity off the back of our remarkable geology and the efforts of resources industry. And I might add, that airlift continued week in, week out, right through the COVID pandemic to keep this country moving. And that's a really important contribution Western Australia made to the whole national economy during those very testing times. Growing a stronger, more successful nation doesn't begin and end at our cities. It also means supporting our regions and regional towns to be strong, vibrant and economically diversified. As Minister for Resources and Northern Australia, I'm committing to unlocking the bush's full potential and furthering the multi-generational effort of developing the regions to our north, many of which suffer from the twin tyrannies of distance and disadvantage. Australians in rural and remote areas have a right to the same basic services on offer as those of us that live in the cities. Investing in Northern Australia's economy will boost migration to these areas. It will enable the provision of services and economic opportunities for country people that some in the city take for granted. It will help accelerate development of the North's abundant mineral and energy resources, which will be key to the global goal of reaching net zero emissions. The refreshed Developing Northern Australian White Paper will deliver a prioritised action plan to refocus delivery and re-inject urgency in the economic and social development of Northern Australia. More intense weather events, for example, require greater investment in disaster resilience and in risk reduction. The recent flooding and destruction of transport infrastructure in the Kimberley brought this into very sharp focus for us all. At the same time, more of Northern Australia's critical minerals wealth will be needed to drive that global transition to decarbonisation. Capturing that opportunity must significantly benefit regional communities and industries. One of the major tools with which we can accelerate economic growth and population across the north is the Northern Australia Infrastructure Facility. Since 2016, the NAIF has backed 15 resources projects in Northern Australia with a total loan value of over $2 billion, creating over $24 billion in economic benefit. But we want to build further on those benefits, which is why the Australian Government recently expanded the facility and broadened the investment remit so it will make a real difference to the life of Northern Australian communities. And that was a bipartisan effort, and I want to be clear on that. Regional and Northern Australia is much more than mining, as anyone here at this summit knows. But resources are a major component of Northern Australian economy and a huge contributor to our national economy. In the financial year just ended, our resources and energy export earnings, led by coal, iron ore, gold, aluminium and gas, are forecast to hit a record $459 billion. Much of the future growth in the resources sector will be in Northern Australia. Australia is a long-established, reliable and efficient supplier of iron ore, gas and metallurgical coal. We're the world's #1 producer of lithium and a top 5 producer of cobalt and rare earth elements. All of these are essential for clean energy technologies. The global energy transition now underway presents us with a priceless opening to grow our resources industry, boost our value-adding capabilities and contribute meaningfully to global decarbonisation. We're already witnessing a new mining boom off the back of unprecedented global demand for our critical minerals, and I note at this year's Diggers and Dealers Forum just the other week, there were more critical minerals hopefuls in attendance than gold miners. The Albanese government wants to ensure investments from government facilities and programs of regionally focused initiatives do create new economic opportunities for the bush, opportunities that reach into all regional communities. We should also respect and celebrate the fact that we share this land with the oldest continuous culture on earth, and that is why we support the implementation of the Uluru Statement from the Heart and why we encourage the private sector to forge genuine partnerships with Indigenous communities, as many have been doing for many years. Now, more than ever, our miners and outback businesses are working closely with First Nations custodians and communities to achieve better outcomes in local recruitment, training, education and procurement. All are important to achieve social and economic uplift. Western Australia is a perfect example for the whole nation of how listening to Aboriginal people only makes us better. Here in WA, all major projects have long required consultation with traditional owners for approval. Not before time, extensive consultation and agreements with Indigenous traditional owners is a standard and important part of doing business when developing a resources project. This has helped make the state the economic powerhouse of the nation. So in that spirit, I would like to thank that long list of resource companies who have come out in strong support of voting yes to the referendum which will recognise Indigenous Australians in the Constitution through a voice to Parliament. As the resources sector is the largest employer of First Nations people, it makes sense that that sector would advocate in the interests of an important part of their workforce. Only when we share the benefits of economic development equitably can we be said to be a truly progressive and inclusive nation. To conclude, our regions have sustained the nation. They have made us safe, prosperous and secure. And the bush will be prominent in word and deed as we grasp new economic opportunities to build a productive, sustainable and livable future. I look forward to working with our state and territory partners to deliver projects and initiatives that grow our regions further and which lead to strong interrelationships between all the regions and all of our great cities.